class. Okay, so we'll start recording. So if you have questions as we're moving along, there is a raise your hand feature sort of in the, I think it's in the chat area, or you can use it in the reactions, put a thumbs up or some indication, but you can also go ahead and put a question over in the chat and I'll try to monitor that as well. So thanks, Aubrey, for getting us started in terms of that, but that'll work for the attendance this evening. And it is important that you do that because we are still obligated to drop no-shows. And so this is indicating that you are at the first class meeting. So, yeah. All right, so yeah, so Christine Clancy, you can call me Dr. Clancy, you can call me Instructor Clancy, you can also call me Christine, that's totally fine. So let's see, I grew up in Southern California, this is where I'm from. My mom and my sister still live in Oceanside, that's where I went to high school and things like that. I moved north to go to Cal State Long Beach, which is where I did my undergraduate degree in communication studies, and I was part of the speech and debate team. Is kind of how I came to academically be involved in communication. Let's see, then I stayed at Cal State Long Beach to do my master's for a few extra years, mostly because it was easier than trying to figure out something else to do. I feel like the thing about college that's frustrating is that right when you sort of get a sense of what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to navigate, they're asking you to move on. Then I went to Purdue University, which is where I did my PhD work. So I ventured out to the Midwest for a little while and lived out there for 3 years while I was doing my PhD work. So at the moment, I teach communication classes, mostly at Golden West College is actually where my home college, but I've been teaching at Cypress since about 2015, 16, and I mostly teach in the summer at this point. So that's what I'm here to do. And, you know, I was joking with my mom today that I partly took this class because I thought it would be nice to be, I kind of like the night class experience as a chance to get out of my house and away from children. And here we are, that's not happening. So my husband is Josh House. He also teaches at Cypress College and he coaches the speech and debate team there. So if any of you are so inclined after your time in public speaking, if you want to continue that, he would love to have you check out the team. So trying to think if there's other things. So I am at home, obviously. I have 2 children. So Charlie is 7 and Claire is 5. And I'm hoping that you won't have to interact with them all that often, although you might hear them beating each other in the background because we've been stuck at home together for months and they haven't gone to school or seen friends since the middle of March. So they're generally pretty good together, but I think we're all kind of at the end of our, you know, there's only so much entertaining of ourselves that we can do. So trying to think if there's anything else. I have 4 cats because I make poor life choices. So they might also make an appearance here and there. Trying to think if there's anything else that you might care to know. Okay, well, you can always ask. It's public speaking, not interpersonal, so we talk briefly. Well, it's human comm, I should clarify. So we talk briefly about interpersonal, so we'll share a little bit about ourselves at that point, but I'm pretty comfortable if you have any other specific questions that you would like to ask personally. And also I'm always here as a resource if you have questions about communication or about Cypress, things like that. So, okay. Thank you everyone for getting your info over in the chat. Let's see how we've filled out to 25, so that's excellent. So if you are just popping in, it's fine if you stay off video for tonight, that's totally okay. If you have any questions as we start to move through the syllabus on the course, you can either kind of just indicate, I thought there was a hands up section, but I'm having trouble finding that. Maybe someone else is smarter than me. I feel like for as much Zooming as we've all done lately, but I feel like every time you do something, open up a different one, but I don't see it down here. So I just see in the reactions the thumbs up, so you could do that and that would help me see you. Or you can just go ahead and throw your question over in the chat and I'll try to monitor that as we go. And I'm just gonna peek real quick back at my inbox. Cool. All right. Excellent. So yeah, thank you. And the participation part. Ah, there we are. I knew it had to be there somewhere. Thank you. So yes, if you click the participants button, there you go. Which also reminds me too, there's the go faster button, but I do tend to speak pretty quickly. And all of the joy that is getting to hang out with each other in a classroom, really just the physical space, is lost in this environment. So sometimes I tend to speed up rather than slow down. So please let me know if you need anything, or if I'm going too fast, really. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen at this point. So let's see. Here we go. Okay. So you should be able to see our Canvas shell. And that's mostly what we're going to talk about this evening. I got to drag you back over here. I can't see chats and things of that nature. Really? Now where'd my chat button go? Lessons learned. Okay. So I want to talk about the syllabus, but then also kind of walk you through the Canvas, class. Everything. Okay. So I've lost the chat button, but I'll get you back. Okay. There we go. We'll pull it up already. Okay. All right, I know there's a question sitting in there, so I will come back to it in just a second. Okay, so this is our, oh, here we are, thank you. Oh, for Visity. Now I'm drawing lines. Okay, let's not do this. Oh, go away, there, okay, finally. Someone had a question about the text, and you do need one. I'm going to show you in just a second. Okay, so our class. So this is the homepage of our Canvas class. This is how you can find my information. So you can email me. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me. So you can do that here. There's a direct link. My inbox is also set up to bounce to the Cypress College email. So either one works fine. I do have student hours or office hours for you to pop in. So those are times like in a normal situation where I would be in an actual physical office. So you can just use that link and it will take you directly. So Monday 1 to 2, Tuesday 4 to 5, and Thursday from 10 to 11 are times when I will specifically be in those Zoom, in that Zoom room. So you can come find me. You don't need to make an appointment or anything like that. So just so you know in terms of how to interact with me. The syllabus is right here. So here's sort of your formal copy of the syllabus. So you do need a text. Mine looks a little bit different because I have the instructor version of the text, but you have a Cypress custom edition. So it's called the Essentials of Human Communication. And we're using an old version at this point. It's the 8th edition, 2014. Truth, don't need the custom Cypress edition. There's nothing in there that you would need that's not in the regular edition, but you keep that to yourself. So you can get it through the bookstore. It's loose leaf through the bookstore, or you can order it somewhere else. It is out of print, but you can find it on a lot of used sites, and I'm not savvy, but you probably could locate a free PDF if you are so inclined to do that. But you will need the text itself. I'm not going to provide that in terms of the content. So as we move through the course, I'll have some lecture videos and some PowerPoints and things like that. But I think you'll struggle if you don't have the actual text. So please do try to get a hold of that, either in the custom edition or a used version of the 2014 edition. The other basic information on the syllabus, I'll let you kind of go through. I do want to highlight just a couple of things as we move. through. So the class conduct and rules. So the basic idea is that half of the course will be what I'm calling live, which is this experience. So you will have to be present on Zoom from roughly 6:30 to 8:30. Some of the speech days will be a little longer. Today will not be very long. So those are indicated in the modules where everything is listed out. When we do meet for class sessions that are led by me, like this one, it's fine if you don't turn on your video. And you can use your audio if you want to ask a question or something like that. But when we get to the speeches, you will need to be able to, we'll need to be able to see your faces, because that's what makes our audience. So when I'm speaking as a student delivering a speech or a group presentation, I want to be able to see my audience on the computer or on my phone. I don't want to just see a list of names. So when you look at the schedule, try to figure out where you can find a relatively, secluded space where you can use audio, where you can use video, and where we won't have major interruptions. I mean, we're at home. There's only so much you can do. I hope that my kids won't scream at you, but they probably will at some point over the course of this semester. So, it is what it is. If we're watching a speech and you have to shut your video off, you have to do that. I mean, it is what it is. I am going to try to kind of ask you to treat it as though we were in the classroom setting. So like if you need to get up and get a drink or get up and go to the bathroom or something like that, that you would do it in between speakers, so that, again, if I'm speaking and I'm looking at an audience, I don't just see people coming and going. Okay? So that's, I think, sort of the answer to the generic question about whether or not you would have to be live. So you do have to be live. Most of the days we're live, we're doing speeches, it will require you to have both audio and visual. Video, excuse me. Yes, Rosalie, we will, the 9th edition is fine. If I remember correctly, there are 2 chapters that are switched. So take your chapter edition and just double check the chapter headings. So if you look at the bottom of the syllabus, sorry, Rosalie asked about whether or not the 9th edition of the textbook would work. So yes, so just look here. So I think, I don't honestly remember, but somewhere I think they switched, like informative speaking is now chapter 12 and public speaking is now chapter 11 or something like that. So just do a quick double check, make sure you're reading the correct chapter in terms of content, and you should be fine. Okay. All right, any other questions? Absolutely. Anyone else have any? Okay. Okay. So then the respect statement is kind of really, the same as just, I mean, I don't know, I'm sick of people telling us this is unprecedented times. It's just weird. There's no other way to think about it. So my big thing is, I just want you to be as comfortable as you can be when you have to present in front of the class. So when you are an audience member, just think about what you would like for someone when, like when you're presenting. So try not to be disruptive, try to be active, try to be engaged, try to make eye contact. Don't make it obvious that you're, doing 6 other things on the computer. Try to be engaging, and we'll try to do it in a way that's reasonable. A couple of speeches, we'll take a break, that kind of thing, because you get Zoom fatigue. I mean, this is not a real class. It's tiresome in a way that sitting in a classroom setting isn't. So, okay. There are some exams, so we'll talk about that in just a second when we get into the content. But it is a comm class, so the bulk of your grade is going to come from you actually presenting in the course. Okay. So I did want to comment about late work. So normally when I teach a class in person, what I say is I don't distinguish between excused and unexcused absences. And really my philosophy is just that you as a student shouldn't have to tell an instructor deeply personal information. So like today I got a very long email about someone who had to go to the hospital and this, that, and the other. And I feel for that person, like as a human being, right? But you shouldn't have to disclose that information to me. That's private, personal information that I don't need to know as your instructor. And you definitely don't need to do it in order to like justify some sort of situation in terms of work or schoolwork, I mean. So that is difficult to translate into an online environment. So what I have done is this late work policy. I will grade anything that you submit. If you submit it a little bit late, it will lose 20%. So that's not irrelevant, but so the idea is just that like you shouldn't choose to do late work, but that if you have something actually happen in your life, like we all do, and you have to submit something late, that you can still get the bulk of the credit. So that's the idea. If you submit things more than 1 week after their initial due date, the best that you can get is 50%. And that's really designed to make it so that you don't have to, or that you don't, not that you have to, excuse me, but that you aren't leaving a bunch of things until the very end of the semester, okay? Because that's what I don't want you to think about this class, is that you can just wait and then dump everything at the end. So do your work on time. If you have to be late, totally fine. You still get the bulk of the credit and I'll grade everything. If you sit on things and submit them very late, I will grade them, but you won't be doing very well in the course, okay? So that's my late policy, okay? So please don't feel the need to share any personal information with me if you don't want to. If you need help or something as a human being, by all means, okay? All right, so what we're up to then. I'm gonna jump to the module section pretty much now, just so that we can walk through this stuff. But basically you have participation like you would if you were sitting in a physical classroom. It's made up of discussions and activities that you have to complete in the days where we don't meet formally for a live session, where we're just online. You have a quiz for every chapter. So over the course of our time together, we will cover, we cover I think 14 chapters, but a couple of them are squished together, or 13 I think. You'll take 12 quizzes. Canvas will drop the 2 lowest scores, and that will make up what would kind of be a traditional midterm grade. Every quiz is 10 questions, multiple choice, and you have 10 minutes to complete it. These are actually quizzes that in the physical classroom we would have done at the beginning of the class. So they're just on, they're just on Canvas now. Your final exam, which is down here, is those same quiz questions again. So you will have seen 120 quiz questions over the course of your semester, or 5 weeks basically. The final exam will automatically pull 100 of them and you will take them again. So that's what makes up the final exam. So it is cumulative, but you aren't going to be asked new questions on the old material, on any old material. So you're going to see the same questions again. Okay. So I hope that answers your question, Vishnu, in terms of the exam. So they're not written, they're multiple choice, but you do have quizzes and an exam. Okay. All right. So I'm going to jump to the module section. That's where everything is. So you found us. That's a good start. You're here. Okay, so are there any, let me double check questions. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Oh, I forget I can't see all of you at once. Okay, so let me just, we're looking good. Okay. So in the module section. So this is where the classroom is in the module section. So each week, and the week corresponds to the schedule in the syllabus. There are 4 days that we meet. Half of them will be live and half of them will be online. So we won't meet tomorrow at 6:30. Instead, you'll have some online work to participate in. We will meet again on Wednesday for us to do our introductory speeches, and I'll talk to you a little bit about what your introductory speech is going to look like. And then we won't meet on Thursday. You'll have online work. So that's what it looks like throughout the semester. Now, your modules are locked, so you won't see the second week won't open until Saturday of the week of the, so Saturday of this week, week 2 will open. So I try to set it so that you can see things a little bit in advance, but you can't, the idea is to keep roughly on schedule. So you shouldn't be jumping too far ahead, but you're welcome to work a little bit ahead within the week. So you are also, you know, like if some of you have, I haven't looked, but if some of you have already posted in the discussion, that's fine. The idea is you can work a little bit ahead, but you shouldn't, the idea is not for us to go behind, right? So if you're posting in the discussion after Monday evening, then people don't have a chance to engage you. So trying to stay up and think about the class as meeting at this time as much as possible, okay? So that's what I want to spend a little bit of time chatting about. I've lost my questions again, so let's see. Yes, sorry, we're going to talk about discussion right now, Aubrey. So let me just peek over here also. Too many, I don't have a big enough screen. Okay, so yeah, absolutely. So the discussions, some of them are set to be engaging with each other. Some of them, your points come just from you participating. So it's really just like if I were asking you in a classroom setting to talk about something. So as long as you post, but those descriptions are all within the discussion itself. So if you click on this one, so this one is just by itself. It's just you. You don't have to engage with anyone else. I've gotten very blurry. I don't know why. Sorry. Hopefully my screen is not blurry. This is why they tell you you're supposed to turn off self view so you don't spend the entire time staring at yourself. Okay. All right. The other weird thing about you all being on mute is I feel like I'm talking into the wind. Okay, so here is the discussion for the first. So this is what I'm asking you to do tomorrow. So the first bit of the content for the course talks about the transactional model of communication. So it really sets up like what is communication, and it focuses on these specific parts. I did post a PowerPoint that kind of condenses some of that information in terms of the chapter material, what I think is important. So basically what I'm asking you here to do is to choose a channel and then to answer these questions about that channel. So for example, texting is a channel. So texting might influence the message. So when I used to talk about this, like when I first started teaching, this a long, long time ago, when we would text very short messages, right? Because texting was cumbersome. So you sit on your phone and you sometimes, I mean, if you're too young, but you used to have to push a button several times just to get a letter. So we would text very shorthand. Now I text on my computer. So my computer is attached to my phone. So there are times when I just sit on my phone and on my computer, and I will send out a text message. So now I text like a huge long, paragraph, like I'm writing an email. So how does texting change the message? That's something for you. I'm just going to see if I can fix this. That's what I'm asking you. And then who's using this channel, who might avoid this channel? So like, do your parents text? Do your grandparents text? There we go. So are you going to text if you're in a vehicle? Probably, hopefully not if you're driving, right? If I'm listening to really loud music, will that impede my ability to text? No, probably not. Although some of you might have the experience where you start like typing what you hear, so then maybe it does. So that's what I'm asking you to think about in this. So I'm just asking you to write basically 250 words is like a good length paragraph explaining that, and hopefully we'll get a bunch of different channels so you won't all pick texting. And don't pick electronic communication because electronic communication varies widely, right? So how we text is very different from what we post on Instagram, which is different from what we put on Twitter, which is different from, my children discovered the TikTok. I'm too old for the TikTok. So you have to explain that to me. But it's different, right? What goes on TikTok is different than what goes on some of these other social media channels. So enlighten me / be specific, be creative. That's what I'm asking. So that's what the discussion is. There are some discussions where you will have to answer. So I think in the, sorry, I don't need to click on that. In the perception discussion, I ask you to respond to a classmate. So this one asks you to tell me kind of what you see in terms of perception. So then I ask you to kind of engage with the classmate to get, so this one is worth 15 points. You get 10 points for your initial post and 5 points for engaging with a classmate, and really just to kind of make connections. So that's the idea of the discussions. I hope that helps make sense. Let me peek back. Aubrey asked. Okay, cool. Aubrey seems like I did a good job. Thank you. Anyone else have any other thoughts or questions about the discussions? Okay, so they're all labeled that way. And the idea is that they're due at the time of the class, basically. So, you know, by 9 p.m. they should be posted. And again, if we all wait until 9 p.m., then we can't engage with each other. So if you get a little ahead, that's okay. It's only more helpful for your classmates. So then some of the other things are activities. So this is this organizing activity. This, I don't have you on student view, so it's going to look like how it looks for me. But basically, here, I can switch it. The organizing activity asks you to put some things in a, to organize speech main points into a specific pattern. So it's really just, oh, see, this is why I didn't do student view, because you can't see it. It's not that important. Sometimes my life on Canvas is frustrating. So really it's like a quiz. But you get credit for doing it. So there are a list of main points, and I ask you to organize those main points by topic and then to tell me how they're organized. So like one way we organize main points is chronologically by time. So that's what that activity is. And then some of the other activities down here, like delivery, is a Flipgrid video. So you film a short video of yourself. That one asks you to do some exaggerated delivery. We're going to play charades later on in a Flipgrid video down here. So those are the activity portion of the class. So I'm trying to do as much as I can to replicate the experience of being in a classroom, engaging each other, but to do it in a slightly asynchronous way. Okay. So see if there are any questions. No, not really, Sunny. In terms of Sunny asked about the word count for the responses. I really think I'm just asking for you, I guess, you know, the cliche about discussion, you know, I really like what you did there, Sunny, when you added 1 and 1 and got 2. Great post. So I tried to put the responses when I thought you would have things that were genuinely interesting to talk about. So like in the perception one where I ask you to explain like what you see in this ink blot, I thought you would actually find some, you know, creative ways to say like, oh, that's interesting that you thought this, like I saw this. And so I didn't put a word count, but I would like you to go beyond just saying you commented this and leave it at that, I guess is kind of what I'm asking for. But it's 5 points, so don't spend your whole day dwelling on that. I hope that kind of answers it in terms of so I'm not looking for like huge, insightful comments, but I am hoping that it's something that kind of moves the conversation forward as opposed to just saying, I see what you did there, which doesn't really help us. Okay. Okay. This is a lot of me chatting at you. Thanks, honey. Okay. So I hope that makes sense in terms of, so collectively your participation in the class is worth 100 points. So that is all of the discussion and the activity assignments, and they're sprinkled throughout, and those are all things that you do when the class is online where we don't meet live. Okay, so when we're live, mostly what we're doing is speeches or presentations, and that's to preserve speaking in front of an audience. So over the course of our time together, you have one minor speech that's on Wednesday, 3 major speeches, and 1 group presentation. So a lot of speaking. Okay. And I will say one thing about summer is it goes fast. So there's no slowing down. You're pretty much speaking every week. So, Okay, so I'm gonna end with the introductory speech because that one's coming up. But each of the speeches are laid out in terms of the specific assignment. So if you click on the class meeting, it tells you what the prompt is. And then it also has a link, all the class meeting links. All of the ones that say class meeting have the links back to the Zoom class, so how to get here. So we start by talking about ourselves, and then we move into the research speeches. So the introductory speech, you'll talk about whatever you want. The narrative speech is for you to tell us a story from your life. So you can read through this information. On Wednesday, at the end of our introductory speeches, I'll talk more formally about this assignment. But the idea is basically for you to just tell us something, a story from your life that had a meaningful impact on who you are, or, well, maybe not like fundamentally who you are, but like something that stands out to you, something that taught you a lesson. So the idea is that this first speech, which is 4 minutes, doesn't require any research and doesn't require that you outline. So you're just getting ready or getting comfortable giving a sustained speech, and it will follow a story arc because it's a narrative. So you'll have a beginning of the story, middle of the story, sort of like, you know, the point or climax, and then you will conclude that by kind of tying it into what you learned or what you took away from the speech. So that's the idea of the narrative speech. So you don't have to have an outline for the narrative speech. You just have to show up and present. And we'll talk a little bit more about that at the very end when we talk about the introductory speech, like note cards and things like that. But I did want to point out that all of the speeches have a sign-up sheet. So normally when you come to class, you would sign up on the whiteboard in order because we don't have to like sit around and decide who's going to go next. So that's all these sign-up sheets are. So you just go in, like I haven't even looked if people signed up. So look at that. Way to go, Jose. So that's it. You just go ahead and type your name, and that is the order. So that way when we start the live session, we know who's going to speak. So it's not a you know, guessing game. So that's what, so all of the speeches have a speech order to sign up for. Okay. Your informative and your persuasive speech, those are major speeches, and they are researched speeches where you have to get a topic approved, where you have to do library research, and where you have to submit a formal outline that says, I'm prepared to speak on this topic. So next week, you're asked to choose a topic. I'll talk to you more about this next week as well. There is a video here. This is from the beginning of quarantine when I dyed my hair blue. Thank you. So go ahead and watch the videos. There are videos sort of spattered here and there. And then you'll actually propose your topic in a discussion section that's here. So I list a whole bunch of potential topics. But the idea is that you're going to pick a controversial policy. In your informative speech, you're going to present both sides. So for example, we should have college tuition should be free. So in the informative speech, you'll tell us college tuition should be free, college tuition should not be free. In your persuasive speech, you're going to pick one side and you're going to take ownership over it and defend it. So you'll say definitively, we should have free college tuition or we should not have free college tuition. So you only have to choose one topic. You only have to research one topic, but you're going to present 2 speeches on that topic. And we'll talk more about this stuff over the course of the semester. I'll help you figure out how you're going to take a, you know, how you get to a 6-minute speech, how you move from a 6-minute to an 8-minute speech, etc. Okay, I feel like I'm going really fast. Questions? Can't see everyone. Okay. Okay, we're good? Okay. Also don't want you to stress about, I mean, you can always email me if you have questions that are super specific or pop in this Zoom hours, but this is an overview. It's not meant to be the specific discussion of these assignments. So don't panic if you are like, I get it, but I have a lot of questions, we will definitely talk about it. Okay, so next week you present your narrative and you begin the process of researching for your informative. Week 3, you present, your informative speech. So that's what we're going to do. That's our whole live meeting, is the informative speech. So on this speech order sign up, you should plan for a pretty long class session on July 8th. We'll probably get through like 2/3 of the class, and then we'll have a shorter session on the 9th. So my point is that when you sign up, there's not like a definitive break. These people will present on the 8th and these people will present on the 9th. We'll just get through as many as we can reasonably get through, and then we'll pick up on the 9th. You have a self-evaluation. So I ask you to reflect on your informative speech and then what you're going to do for your, for your persuasive speech. It is a, like it's this version. There is short answer, but I've moved it away from a paper. So I ask you some questions and then I have some short answer questions where I say like, what specifically did you feel comfortable about, that sort of thing. So that's what the self-evaluation looks like. I've trapped myself here. Yes, Vishnu. So we're going to talk about that sort of at the very end tonight, but the basic idea is for you to have note cards. So we're going to talk about the difference between a preparation outline, which is what you submit to me, and a speaking outline, which is your note cards. But you should absolutely have note cards, a speaking outline. You do not have to have it for the first speech, but then moving forward, you should have it. And you actually there's some points on the rubric for effectively using them. So you actually need to have them. Okay. So yeah. Okay, so here we are down around week 4. So you have the self-evaluation. The persuasive speech is at the end of week 4. And that really wraps up most of what I sort of feel like fundamentally is the speaking part of the class. And then we move into we have interpersonal discussion and a small group discussion. So the very last presentation that you have is a group presentation where you'll present on some of the content from the group chapter. But I give you a built-in workday. So I'll put you in your groups and you'll know who you are before you get there, but you have a whole class session to work on a 15-minute presentation. So the idea is really not that you have to meet outside of the class. It's just really to kind of integrate what we've learned in terms of presenting into using it in a group setting. Okay. And then even though this class is advertised as 6 weeks long, it's really only 5 weeks and a day. So the final exam is on Monday, the 27th. It unlocks a couple days before that, but you have to finish it by the end of the day, the 27th, because that's the last formal day of our course. And like I said, the final exam is 100 questions, but it's 100 of the 120 questions that you've already gone over. So, and you can review those quizzes when you're done. I should point out too, all the quizzes are here when they're attached to the chapters that we're working on. And that chapter information is also available in the syllabus schedule, but is also laid out here. Okay. I feel like that's the bulk of what I have to say. The last thing I want to do is talk about the introductory speech, but questions or concerns about kind of navigating Canvas, about what's expected of you, let me know. Are you still there? Are you shopping online? Are you watching TikTok videos? I don't know. What do you do to multitask while you're on the computer? Nothing. Okay. No one wants to tell me. Okay. You're good? You're good for real? You know what you're in for? You're okay with that? Okay. All right. Then, yeah, we'll wrap up by talking about the first speech. So normally in the classroom, we would get to know each other. So I guess the downside to tonight is that if we were in the classroom setting, we would have specific time for you to chat with each other. So I do think, as much as I say this is awkward and I feel like I'm talking into the void and I can't see smiling faces or, you know, that kind of thing, but the hardest part for me is that you don't get a chance to interact with each other in quite the same way. So the introductory speech is really our opportunity to get to see you, to get to know who you are, to sort of get some sense of a classroom experience. So the introductory speech is really just your chance to say, hello, hi, my name is, and this is, you know, what I sort of want to share about myself. So you genuinely can talk about whatever you want. I don't care. It's 90 seconds. So you, every speech in this class has a time limit. And I always give you a 30-second window on both sides. So 90 seconds means you have to speak for 1 minute, and you shouldn't go over 2 minutes. I don't actually know what I'm going to do in this class. I haven't thought about it in terms of like wrap it up kinds of gestures. If you get over 2 minutes, I probably won't cut you off. I make that joke in my real life class, but it would seem very awkward for me to just unmute myself and be like, so I'll try not to do that, but I will try to indicate, you know, to wrap up if you start to really go on. But I enjoy it if you're, you know, if you're comfortable and you're chatting. So yes, okay. Oh, there you go. That's good. I'll get a big giant stop sign. I'll make that my no video picture, and so I'll just cut my video off, and it'll just be like, stop. That seems, I like that you're already very aggressive about my engaging with you while you're speaking. No fear whatsoever. You're like, it's fine. So thank you. So you got to speak for 1 minute. Try not to go over 2 minutes. You can talk about whatever you want. I do think the easiest thing to do is to talk about yourself, because you know yourself and you don't have to think about it. And the other thing is that sometimes I have students who, you know, want to explain like the best Harry Potter house or some intricate detail of how the Mandalorian fits into the larger, you know, universe. But you can't do that in 90 seconds, because if you care about that enough to want to talk about it, you know way more than 90 seconds worth. But you can. So I have had students in the past talk about things that are not like personal. That's totally fine. But a couple words of advice. So everybody should get full credit on this speech. There's a couple ways you don't get full credit on this speech. The first is to refuse to speak for a minute. And I say refuse because if you try to stop at like 45 seconds, we'll just ask you questions, probably mostly me. And so then you have to politely decline them, like, no, thank you. In which case, okay, fine, but you won't get full credit on the time. The other way that you don't get full credit is to just make it very obvious that you have not thought at all about what you're going to say. So that looks like starting your speech and, you know, saying, well, I work at the Target. I have a brother. I don't like face masks. How much time has that been? Okay, so don't do that. Don't do that, and then you'll be fine. So figure out what you want to say, and then just, it should be a very easy speech. Hi, my name is Christine. I'm going to tell you about this thing, and then be done. Okay, so that would be the easiest way for you to present. And as I say, I think the easiest thing is to just tell a quick story about yourself, share. I mean, really whatever you want. So if you want to tell us about what you're doing for work. So I worked at Starbucks my whole undergrad. And so I keep, you know, the weird thing about this experience is trying to sort of like imagine. So it's hard for me to imagine what life is like for you right now, for by all means. But that's what I sort of think about, is like what it would have been like if I had to go to school like this, and what, you know, would have been like if I was working at Starbucks, because some stayed open and some didn't. So by all means, you can tell us what that experience is like. I don't know if any of you are parents, but I can certainly tell you what it's like to not be able to send your children to school for months. So, you know, if that's what you want to talk about, by all means. If not, tell us about your pets. Tell us about where you hope to travel to whenever they allow you to get on a plane again. It doesn't really matter. It can have nothing to do with this right now. It can be about your family. It can be about, yeah, really anything. So just pick a simple story and share that story. So you don't have to have notes for this speech, But if you are going to use notes, the only thing I would like to caution you is that it's on something small, so that you're not trying to hold like a whole piece of paper, you know, in front of you or in the way. And the other thing is, in this digital format, so I'm not doing the best job because I keep looking over at you on my screen, or I look at myself, but you do need to try to make eye contact with the camera. So if you have something on your screen and you are reading from your screen, it's obvious that you're not looking at us. So try to have something in your hands so that you might look at it, but that then when you look up, you're making eye contact with the audience. So we're going to do the best we can on that. I didn't change my rubrics from the way that I would normally grade the speeches, but you know, I taught in spring. I moved all this stuff online. So I am aware of that, and I'm not going to grade it the exact same way that I would if we were in class. But those are some of the things that has kind of come to my attention as we do speeches in this format, what that looks like. So, okay, so we're going to leave this evening. I won't see you tomorrow. Tomorrow, my expectation is that you will review the PowerPoint. You'll go through chapter 1 of the text. You're going to take a quiz. Remember, the quiz are 10 questions, multiple choice. You do have 10 minutes to complete them. And I guess the big thing about the quizzes is you cannot stop them. So once you click start, the 10-minute timer is running. It can't be stopped. So if you have to get up and deal with something, that's fine, obviously, but you won't get extra time. You can't pause it and then come back. So make sure you're ready when you go to take the quizzes. The quizzes you could probably get away with doing on your phone. The final exam you should definitely not do on your phone, and I'll kind of remind you of that as we go or get closer to it. So you're going to take the quiz, and then you're going to add your comment to the discussion where you pick a channel, right? One of the, so an email or face-to-face or the phone or texting or all the social media, and then you're going to share how that choice of channel influences the other aspects of communication, okay? So then the next time I see you, we will meet on Wednesday, same way. So you'll click in, and then that day you do need to be prepared to share your video so that we have faces to look at, and then we'll go through the order. So make sure you sign up for the speech before the start of the class on Wednesday, and we'll just go one after the other. Usually we do it in one sitting, but we'll probably take a couple breaks just to kind of deal with the monotony and the weird experience that this creates. And that's it. At the end of that class, I'll talk about the next speech just so you have a chance to ask questions and engage. But otherwise, that's so we'll kind of ease into the semester. Yeah, so remember, you can always email me. You can always pop in at the Zoom student hours. And then obviously, I try to log in now that we know each other a little bit, but I try to log in a little bit early so that you have a chance to chat with me. And then I can always stay after if you have questions as other people are leaving. So no, Jennifer, our normal meetings are half of the week, but after, I mean, you got to go look at the modules. So sorry, I realized I was still sharing my screen instead of letting you while I was talking, but let's see. So like for this week, it's Monday and Wednesday. For week 2, it is Wednesday and Thursday. And then that actually kind of holds true Wednesday and Thursday because we're doing speeches at the end of the week, and that's when we meet. So actually it is Wednesday and Thursday for the rest of the semester. I didn't pay attention to that, but it is. So yeah. Cool. Okay. Any other thoughts, concerns? I should have stopped sharing so that you could see me. There we go. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So then make sure, I don't know if anybody added, but if you didn't throw your info in that chat, do that because that's what I'm going to kind of formally count. I can see who showed up here as attendance. So, but that doesn't have any bearing on grades. That's really just because I do have to formally tell them who did not show up, no shows. So, okay, great. All right, well, I'll let you leave. I'll kind of sit tight for a second just to make sure that nobody has any other questions before I end the meeting formally. But thank you. It was nice to meet you. Have a good evening.